Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Move, Crush, Count. I am your host, Scott Joseph. Move, Crush, Count is proudly sponsored by J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your competition so you don't have to outspend them. Check out jnlmarketing.com today, after the show, of course, so you can check out their innovative approach and how they'll help you move the crowd, crush your competition, and count the money. Very excited about our guest today. I was fortunate enough to be a guest on his own show. Outstanding time. He did an incredible job, and you can see why he's successful as the founder of the Podcast Factory. He's helping people launch very successful podcast. More importantly, does it in a way, his niche is finding shows, I guess, help him launch shows that inspire and influence people to live a very fulfilling life. So I please welcome to Move, Crush, Count, JR Rivera. Welcome, buddy.
Brother, thanks for having me on the show. Stoked to be here and eager to jump into it.
Well, today we're going to talk a lot. How to talk about taking responsibility for our actions, overcoming obstacles, achieving success in all areas of our life. This is every time I do these leadership retreats, business, bourbon, and cigars, and culture, leadership, accountability. These things all come up nonstop. And at some point they overlap or touch on every mastermind topic we have. So this should help a lot of people. I'm excited about it.
All right. We set the bar high. Ready?
All right, let's dive in. All right. So I was going to ask you right out of the gate, like what inspired you to focus on the concept of extreme ownership. But before we do that, you define it. What's that mean to you? How do you define extreme ownership? What's that mean?
I've had to distill it because when you read the book by Jocko Willink, it's a big concept and there's plenty of chapters. And there was a point where I read that book 8 times, got the cliff notes, passed it to my team, and I was really into it. But like anything goes, you have to refine it. You have to make it yours. And what I've come down to is a couple key points in the idea of extreme ownership. And the main one for our company culture is a find it, fix it mentality. And problems are going to come up. Problems always come up. Plans don't go according to plan. That's a given. And we have really focused in the last 6 months on a find it, fix it mentality and making that something that creates opportunity and value for everybody in the chain. And I mean value for us as a company, of course, value for our team, value for our clients, and most importantly, value for our listeners. And so this has been distilled down to the idea. And I was interviewed last week and I didn't realize this, but we've got a thing going where it's entrepreneurship, right? We're giving people on our team ownership and safety to make decisions, find problems, fix them, turn them into opportunities, and make the value chain better up and down.
What inspired you to get into this?
The extreme ownership. I just like people being accountable. I mean, the only people who are successful are people who are accountable, right? That was true. That was the idea. And I liked when I read the book, Commander's Intent, right? Where the commander lays out the big picture and he allows a team to make adjustments on the fly as long as they're in line with the commander's intent. And I've been working hard. Look, I didn't have any training. This is kind of embarrassing, but I didn't even graduate high school. So nobody taught me anything, right? I had to go out and get it. I had to go out and learn. And nobody taught me how to run a business. I had to learn. And I think one of the things that, as an entrepreneur, one of the big mistakes we make is holding on to things too long. And hey, anything I can do or anything you can do, I can do better. That mentality only gets you so far. So what inspired me was smashing my head against a brick wall over and over again and not getting anywhere and saying something's got to be different. And I'm starting to think about not just elevating myself to CEO. A lot of people want to be the CEO of their company and have a team, but how do I get to the point where I'm the chairman of the board, where I'm an advisor, and the company and the team live on their own and do their own thing? And so it's just been growth over the years.
Let me just tell you, when you get there, that chairman spot, we discussed this on your show. Sometimes you get there and you're like, is that all there is? And you realize, oh, this isn't necessarily what I was meant to do. So, but that's a whole other topic. I'm not going to dive down there, but it's interesting you brought that up. Listen, I agree with you. I think accountability, holding people accountable. I think if you look at the most successful companies, businesses, the leaders in those organizations do a great job. I think when people hear the word accountability, extreme ownership, what I don't want is the audience sitting there thinking, oh, here we go. Going to sit there and make me. And I think some people have this horrible visual in their head of what that means. Talk to us a little bit about that. So let's avoid that confusion.
Yeah. So it reminds me of a conversation I had with our son this weekend, and we were discussing discipline. And he says, Dad, discipline sounds like a bad thing. Is discipline bad? Is that if I get disciplined, have I been bad? And I said, 90% of the world's going to think discipline's a bad thing, but discipline is what gives us this life. Discipline is what gives us this freedom, this growth, this purpose. And in our house, discipline is a good thing. And I think that accountability falls under that. And the idea of extreme ownership is a gift. This is a gift to our team because we allow them to own their role. I mean, in most companies, somebody's going to be talking from the top down, be a dictator, tell you what to do, how to do, and when to do it. I don't care about that. What I care about is a result. I want the result. And I'm going to show you one way to get it, and then I'm going to hand it to you, and you make that your own. You make it better. You improve it. You own it. That's the whole idea. And so I think accountability is a gift that you only get with, all right, I don't want to stroke my ego. You have to have a certain level of confidence as a leader to be able to hand things off. And I'm not stroking my ego. I'm just saying I've been able to step back, let people do their things. And just like a child, look, you have a little kid, a little toddler learning to walk. He's going to bounce around. He's going to fall. He's going to get back up. He's going to figure it out. As a good parent, you can't be sitting there holding him. The kid will never learn how to walk. You got to give him room, let them do their thing, let them learn, and support them. And that's really what it's about.
So I've got a 10-month at home, and her older sister is 13. So to give you an idea of the gap. And I'm only saying that because my wife, I'm going through this right now. Michaela is her name. She's got to become frustrated. It's okay for her to be frustrated. We can't sit there and do everything for her. I mean, right now she just points and we have to carry her around all the place. It's, and she gets very bored very quickly. And so it's constant movement just to keep her happy. But she's a sweet little girl. I think poor leaders do a very bad job on the accountability front. Why do you think? And it doesn't mean that they couldn't be good managers and they couldn't be good leaders, but sometimes I think there are leaders out there that avoid confrontation, or they view it as confrontation instead of maybe how it should be viewed. Talk to me about why you think that happens and what's the best way around that.
I have this thing, and I think it's my own personal bias. I don't know if a manager can be a leader. Maybe if they want to be, they could grow to that position, and I would certainly support that inside of our team. But I think they're two different things, because a manager is managing a process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. They like the status quo. They don't want anything to break. They want to make sure it runs. Where a leader is going to lay out a vision, break everything, and then go back trying to fix it. And I think it's two different things. And that's what I believe keeps people stuck in that manager mindset, is not willing to break things, not willing to take risks, not willing to push the boundaries. And this is something that we're working on in the culture of our company. In fact, I was preparing for the show today and I did 30 minutes thinking about culture because I knew you were going to grill me and I wanted to think about these things. I prepped a little bit. I didn't want to show up unprepared for you. But so we've got an acronym, right? Our core values. Give. Give is the acronym. And God put us on this earth to give. As you know, I remember on our interview, you're giving. And that's where you're finding your purpose now. As a chairman, you realize there was something else you had to give. So giving is a verb. Giving is an action. And that is the acronym for our company. And when it breaks down, it's growth. And this is personal growth, financial growth, growth in the company, growth for our clients. Impact. That's the work we do. Right words, right person, right time can change a life. We are making an impact every single day on our listeners. And that's a big responsibility. That's what we do here. Value, right? Value is something that I think is underrated these days. We got inflation. People are charging more. We're getting less. It's crazy. And when I think of value, I think value as a team to one another, be valuable to yourself, like value yourself, your work, value our clients, right? Because they're paying us, and value our listeners. How do we bring value in every area that we are working in so that we can be a better company and fulfill our purpose? And then excellence. And here's one that's going to get people. I say excellence. You got some weird filter in your ears that you're going to hear perfection. Excellence, perfection, excellence, No, excellence is not perfection. The way that I look at excellence is constant experimenting. That's how you get better every single day. So when we break things, when we push to a point that we break, I want to support my team and say, ooh, let's reel that back. And when we push and we break through, I want to cheer them on. And that's what I see in excellence. So I think it's just giving you a perspective of how we live as a company.
First off, love the acronym. I love the way you tied in your core values to that and the overarching of give, and the meaning behind it and how you came to it. It's awesome. I sit there. I love breaking things, and because think about it, right? Let's just take processes. Every business has got, whether they document it, whether they realize it or not, they've got processes within their organization, and everyone can think their process is great until they get busy, right? Until they get busy. And that's why if you want to improve productivity, to me, increase sales. All right. You want to improve productivity, increase sales, because it forces you, because it puts stresses on all those quality checks. And now we're staying longer than we would like to, and all this other stuff. But to me, that's where your opportunity lies, to improve the quality of your work, to improve how efficient you are, your productivity, the quality of the service that you provide. Because when you're busy and now you have opportunities to fix what is breaking or cracking, if you come back just a little bit and to a normal time, hopefully you keep scaling up. But if you come back to a little bit, the quality and the efficiency is just that much more. That client experience is that much better, is it not? I mean,
bro,
to me, that's the best time I look forward to that.
That's the best way to break it. In fact, it's like you're reading my mind, because we did that quarter over quarter, 30% increase, felt pretty good, broke some stuff. Some things broke. Yeah. So we're having meetings and we have scorecards. We have leadership meeting. We have drivers for the business. And one of them for our operations guy is misses. Things that got messed up. And he's responsible for those because he's the operations guy. And all of a sudden, we're like 0, 0, 0, boom, 3, 5, 8. What's going on? Everything's breaking. That I agree with you. All right, well, that process clearly isn't working. So let's discuss this in a meeting. Let's discuss what the fix is. Let's put it out there into the world and see how it does, because that's exactly it. We had to scale back last year. We had to cut some team members, tighten up as we were rebuilding our foundation. And we had to rely on processes. And in fact, I was laughing the other day. Somebody was asking me about podcast stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't really know. Let me get the SOP for the company and maybe I can share that with you. 36-page document. I'm like, oh, that's more than I thought. They're doing a good job there. I don't know how many of those we broke, but hey, back to the drawing board, make it tighter, find the checks, find the balances, and make that experience clients. And for us, make us more confident in the work that we're doing.
It's so funny you brought up podcasts. So I was at PodFest in January down in Orlando. Went to a workshop, and I'm all about process. With the agency J&L marketing, I mean, we have processes for everything, and written, documented. We brought in an expert on Kaizen, continuous process improvement here. But, you know, the podcast was relatively new to me, and I just jumped in and started doing it. All right. And everyone views the podcast as a major pain in their ass. All right. Except for me, obviously.
Right.
All right. It used to be. And then I realized I got to PodFest and they started talking about a process for the podcast all the way through. Process for this, process for that. And I started thinking, here I have been the last 20, 30 years creating, and I didn't even think, how is that even possible? I didn't even think to document a written process for our own show. I just started doing it and saying, all right, we need this. You know how that goes. We need this. We need, it just created chaos. And so I've got is this. Listen, I think every organization wants accountability or wants a culture of accountability. But how do we get individuals to take ownership of their own mistake failures that they're going to make along the way? You're sitting there saying you want people to break things. How do we get people, when that happens, how do we get people to take ownership of it?
We got to make them feel safe. We got to let them know from the beginning that this is the way it works here. And this was something that, like I said, last year, we were rebuilding. We spent the better part of the come in this year and sell the hell out of everything, right? But you had out as an agency for what went down here. But from now on, we are going to push the boundaries. Yeah. And so, all right, Daddy's got our back. We're safe. Oh, these suckers have pushed them back. I'm like, dude, are you making stuff up here? What is this? So that's how they know the boundary. But I'm like, put it out in the open, right? So when we hit when we hit something where a client is like, what the hell is this? We put it out in the open for all of them to see. It's not just feedback to the one, it's feedback to all. Boom, we hit a boundary. Let's pull back. Boom, we hit a boundary. Let's pull back. And I'll keep the heat off of you. But when the shrapnel hits, we got to pick up the pieces real quick. Okay. So that's the deal I made with them. And seeing that now work with the writers so they can push boundaries is happening with the rest of the team. Well, go out and come up with a plan. Push that plan as hard as you can. If it works, great. If it's not great, then we'll rethink it.
Well, I have to think. I'm trying to put myself in one of your copywriter shoes. It has to be a more fulfilling job. It has to be, and maybe not even a job. It has to be just the work is more fulfilling when they get to experiment, and it doesn't become mundane, I guess is the best way to say it.
We want creativity here. We need to push. Everybody's worried about Chat GTP taking their jobs. And I'm like, listen, the only people that are really going to do well with Chat GTP is the Chat GTP jockeys that know how to run it. I said, Correct. But they're not going to get creative. They're not going to get inspired. I mean, eventually maybe they will, but for now we stay ahead of them by innovating. And that's what I told them. We got to push. We got to push. We got to push with a purpose. And our purpose, we made sure that the copy is designed to provoke curiosity. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes with, and they don't even think about it as copy. They think of it as show notes. And I think that's just a cop out. For us, it's copy that gives lift to the audio program. And the copy is designed to get people curious. Yeah. But curious enough to listen to the episode. Because if we don't have people listening to the episode, then why did we do this? And so our whole system is designed, it's integrated just like that. One piece fits into the next. Everything's designed to give lift to the episode, and the episode is designed to give lift to your business.
So what are some common mistakes that you see leaders make when, all right, I'm sitting here in your case, right? You're creating this culture of accountability as it revolves around creativity, like you just said. All right. What are the mistakes that leaders make when they're trying to get everybody rowing in the same direction with this culture?
So
it doesn't matter if it's about creativity or anything else. It's all we all have the same challenges with this.
I don't look at everybody else's leadership. I can talk about the mistakes that I have made. And one of the big ones is keeping it to myself or keeping it to one or two members of the team. It is one of the biggest mistakes that we made. And
expand on that a little.
Yeah, like Cupcake, my wife, Rachel, is a partner in the team. This is what we believe, but we don't share it with the rest of the team. Why is this guy doing this when we should be doing this? Like, internal conversations don't work. It has to be company wide. And that's why I just recorded videos on updated company culture, give kind of like I explained here. And that goes out to everybody. And on top of that, your scorecard is based on this. Your evaluation is going to be based on this. So if you're not meeting company culture, you're not going to last here. And so the biggest mistake I made was not making it public, not sharing it everywhere and enough. And the other part that I think has been super valuable for us as a team is getting buy-in. Because I remember, man, the first time I brought it to the copywriters, it was like a smack in the face because I found my purpose. I was like, holy cow, right words, right person, right time can change a life. And all of us have experienced this. They're like, yeah. So how's that affect our copy? It was like, dude, this is such a cool idea, but they didn't get buy-in. But when I came back and I started getting their feedback on what that meant to them and what their work meant to them and shaping it with their involvement, then it becomes theirs, doesn't it? If they're involved, it becomes theirs. And that's what we're doing all the way up and down the chain is, yeah, all right, so find it, fix it. What's that mean to you here in your job, in your role? What's that mean to you here? Make things better. Make you better. Whatever. You will help us define it, but then you also own it.
Yeah. I love that you keep bringing up ChatGPT because I feel like, at our last event or retreat, we had an editor, senior editor from Automotive News who was there. And I brought up chat. Of course, anybody in copywriting, journalists, you bring up ChatGPT and it's like just a horrible word. But to me, I think to what you said earlier, I think the people that fully understand it and embrace it are going to be the people who survive moving forward. And I honestly believe it will help good copywriters, not because it's going to help them write copy, but the good copywriters, maybe they're looking for inspiration on ideas, this and that to take them in a direction. And when ChatGPT spits out some of these options, everyone's going to be using it, which means at some point, a lot of things are going to start sounding the same.
Yep.
And we talk about marketing and the importance of differentiating ourselves from our competitors. I think good copywriters in that creativity, I think it opens the door and it makes it easier when done right to stand out and rise above all that noise.
I agree, bro. I have made time in my schedule to play with it. Not only that, I have made time in my schedule to train it, where I fed it my articles that I have written so it can write in my style. And then I go and grade its style like this, don't like that, don't use this, don't use that. And I've been messing with it that way. And I agree with you. If you are a good writer, if you have good ideas, this is like a bionic arm or bionic legs. It's going to make you even stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had to create an FAQ page for a landing page the other day. It was suggested to me for our next retreat. And I was like, I got to think through that. And I just punched in, I've got a prompt basically where I've instructed ChatGPT that it is a prompt robot. And you've probably seen this. It basically, I have instructed it on how to ask questions to get the information it wants. And it just asked me, and then bam, out came those FAQs and the answers. I was like, yeah, that looks pretty good. And I tweaked a few things and run with it. Yeah, it just saves you a lot of time on mundane tasks, I think. So I love it. I sit there and I promote the heck out of it to anybody I can, because to me it helps from productivity and efficiency standpoint all day long. And I want everybody in our organization getting good at it, which is the key. You got to get, just like anything, you got to work it and you got to get good at it.
Yeah.
I like what you just said, though. I am going to do what you just said. I haven't thought to take my own stuff that I've written and train it in that way. And I am. So there's a nugget. If anyone's listening, I don't want to get us off track here on the Chat GPT, but that is something that's gold right there. And I'm taking that. All right. So we're sitting here. We want more accountability with our teams. And let's just take, because I think the easiest way to think through this and to have you talk about it is we want to incorporate or do some type of big change in the organization. And anytime we introduce change, the bigger, the worse it is, right? I think there's always a lot of resistance, especially if you've been very successful for a long period of time doing things a certain way. So how can leaders overcome resistance to extreme ownership within their teams or their companies?
I think we were lucky. We were late to the game, but lucky that I got the buy-in from the team, because just over a year, maybe a year and a half ago, we made the decision to hire a EOS implementer, Traction, Gino Wickman, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. And it was it's a great tool, which has helped us tremendously and helped us get to where we are today and continue growing. But I think they were scared, right? Let's just give you an example of something they were scared of. That's a big thing, and it's not a big thing anymore. But when they heard that we had to have a weekly level 10 leadership meeting, and now our implementer's like, hey, these meetings are going to take at least 90 minutes. My team was like, meetings. We don't want meetings. We don't want to do that. That sounds terrible. And I was like, hey, we bought it. We paid the money. We're doing this. And all right, begrudgingly, we did it. Well, look, year and a half later, fast forward, and in our last quarterly meeting, what was my operations guy telling me? What's my financial officer telling me? Hey, we need more meetings. We need meetings down the chain. We need meetings with the like, who are you? Who are you and what did you do with my people? Who are you? Because they've seen the change. They've seen how efficient and agile, how quick we are to make changes. And it starts with basic things like your objectives and key results. Once you have your culture, then you have your objectives and key results. Then you put your scorecard to that, and then you meet to the scorecard. It's not like this is brain science. It's like, oh, we have a checklist, we have orders, and we have a way to grade ourselves. This is fun.
Let me ask you a question. So I'm very familiar with EOS and Traction. In fact, that's our operating system here at J&L Marketing as well. So I'm curious. Let's get into these level 10s for a second. I want to know how you guys handled this. It may have not have been an issue at all for you. One of the things that I found as we were doing them early on, this is not the case, is I've no longer participate in the level 10s. I want to point out that they've improved greatly. I'm the visionary. So, I found it early because you, just like anything else, you got to get good at those level 10s, right? You got to make sure you're focusing most of your time on the solutions, not the discussion or the issue.
Yeah.
And so But at the same time, it's easy to get caught into those meetings. I don't want to say turning negative, because, and this goes to your culture and I think the mindset, because you tend to, the majority of the time, working on problems, challenges, obstacles, right? And if you don't view them as opportunities, and I think the accountability is where what is critical here. If you don't have accountability, these meetings do not work. Because what happens is you get a lot of finger pointing. You get a lot of people not wanting to, that no one holds themselves accountable for not hitting the objective that week or the score. They want to point, well, we got to do this and we got to do over here. And all of a sudden you're getting solutions that don't fix anything. And we ran into that problem early on, and that's on me. Right. And that's on me. I was not giving enough. You said give up control. Early on, I didn't feel comfortable giving up all the control I needed to my integrator, who's phenomenal. And that was a barrier that finally I realized, Scott, some of your most successful companies that you're involved with, you're not that involved. You might be onto something here. Talk to me about the early processes and how you worked your way through all that.
So to quote the Red Hot Chili Peppers, you got to give it away now.
Yeah. You'll be a lot happier if you do that.
Yeah, you will. I promise. But I think the challenge for us was right people, right seat. Because Cupcake did not want to own the chief financial officer. Meanwhile, she's an MBA graduate of Rollins, loves spreadsheets, and I'm like, really? You're not doing this role? Really? There was resistance for the first 6 months till one day she woke up and got into QuickBooks and it's like, oh, here's this is this, cost of goods sold, this, that. There you are. Hallelujah. But right people, right seat was the big challenge for us. Since as a team, we're very process driven, it was easy to get into the idea of the flow of the meeting, going through the scorecard really quickly, objectives and key results, and then challenges and opportunities, like you said, is where we spend our time, and we call it challenges and opportunities to keep it positive. But I think that it's a matter of getting in your reps, and it's not going to be smooth, because I remember when we hired the implementer, he insisted that we have 6 core values and a 10-year vision and all this stuff that was foreign to us. And we just felt like, oh, really? We have to do this? And we kind of put stuff in there, placeholder, be okay. Things are going to change. And 6 months ago, we were like, 6 core values, I don't even remember what they were. So can we chop it down to 3? And it wasn't until this morning, get this, it wasn't until this morning I was praying my rosary where value came into my head. So you're hearing this fresh idea that I'm pitching to the team now about GIVE, because it was GIE before and it wasn't quite as impactful as it is now. But we fumbled our way around, dude. We tried things, like our scorecard kind of sucked. There was quarters where that scorecard was not moving the dial. But we're people that show up every day, and we keep checking boxes and keep pushing and figure things out. And so it's been a matter of innovation and getting the buy-in, getting the leadership. Is they come in, right? We come in for that quarterly meeting and we work on it together. Even 6 months ago, we started bringing in the copy chief. Dude, you're a leader of your team. We're bringing you in because we want to start holding the writers accountable. And everybody sits there and we do work. But our vision has always been opportunity. So when we get into that section of the challenges and opportunities, we're in problem solving mode. Who's going to fix this? What do we need to do? Is it delegate, delete? Do we need to think about this? Is this going to be a carryover? But we're really like, that's our favorite part of the meeting. Slaughtering that list as quickly as possible empowers us. And that's what's helped our culture a lot. It's like, holy cow, we can make changes this quickly? Yeah. And we do it in a 35-minute meeting.
I need to get you out to one of our leadership retreats, introduce you to Jamil, the president here, who basically runs the show at J&L Marketing, all the day-to-day stuff, integrates it, executes. He's a machine. You guys would love to go through these stories. I think when you talk about extreme ownership, accountability, you know where it helps you, where it's easy to recognize. Besides, it's easy when you're growing and things like that. Say, yep, it's working. All right. But when adversity hits, and then you're using some of that skill set and those tools, then I think it becomes apparent, wow, glad we know what we're doing here. Have you guys had any type of adversity that you've had to go through where this really helped you guys get through?
Brother, last year was a train wreck. Cost of goods was going up. Clients were going down. The balance sheet was not looking good. We have to make cuts. We have to figure out what's not working. Why aren't we doing what we need to do? Why aren't we hitting our numbers? Who do we need to cut? What do we need to change? That all hit us. And like I said, God bless our team. They plug away. They plug away no matter what, because we were trying to figure these things out. And it's like, wow, we're going to have to make some cuts. And why is that happening over there? And where can we pull from here? And you know how it is. That's a double. When your cost of goods goes up and your income goes down, it's a double impact. So yeah, without this, we couldn't have figured it out, and we couldn't have built the leadership, the accountability. In fact, that caused us to innovate. One of the biggest innovations that we made during that time was something we called opportunity spotting. And this was bringing our copy chief into the leadership call, because we were thinking, everybody's counting on JR to make sales. Like JR is like, what the rainmaker? I'm like, guys, I think we all need our part in this. And what we realized when we had the copy team in there is, hey, they're really close to the clients. Like they see what's going on in the episodes, what the clients are talking about, and they can start looking for opportunities to bring value to that client, to bring value to that listener. So opportunity spotting, we found people that need web pages because they're doing a promo. They need extra episodes because they have something going on, or they need, what else have we found? They need to guest opportunities. The writers are the closest to the show because they're writing the notes, and they can say, hey, so-and-so is doing a promo. Maybe we get on a call and see if they need a couple extra episodes. Hey, so-and-so is talking a lot about this subject. Maybe since they're running ads, we can create an opt-in bribe or 3 for them to run ads against with the copy and the show that they've already created. We can create a pack. They're looking for opportunity all the time to bring more value to our guests, or our host, bring more value to us as a company, and bring more value to the listener. Not only that, it brings value to them. How? You find it, you fix it. All right, you spotted that, you want that project, you got the lead on it. Boom.
Yeah, I got to tell you, for us, when COVID hit, we were already going through a big pivot, going from a lot of direct mail, and of course, email stays no matter what, but a lot of direct mail stuff, a lot of private event type stuff where we were promoting, hey, this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've got this going on, come in, and big discount type stuff. Just to summarize that, our copy was much better than what I just said. But however, when COVID hit and all of a sudden everybody was locked down and you weren't allowed to there were some states, we had a lot of automotive clients, and some states they couldn't even sell online. They weren't even allowed to sell online. Like Pennsylvania, that governor shut them down. They couldn't do anything. So people clearly couldn't come in. So not only burning that candle at both ends when you were talking about sales going down and then costs going up, we had the same situation. Not only did we have all these events and campaigns scheduled where we had collected money and done work for, but now they all canceled. And, we're not going to sit there and say, well, sorry, we're keeping your, we weren't doing that. I guess, crap rolls downhill a little bit. And we went to our people that said, hey, we're going to need some help here, here, and here. And of course, we were going to help our clients. I mean, we weren't just losing income coming in. We had to give money back. And so it was that adversity made us make some tough decisions that, looking back, could have been made prior to the adversity and should have been made. But what we did with our print facility, what we did in terms of the focus that we did on digital, our pivot could have happened much quicker had we had done these. We didn't need COVID to do this, right? But COVID was very organized for us. And it was because of the processes and the accountability that you've been talking about here on this episode. So, I mean, that was when you started talking about some of this stuff, that's what came into my head on our own stuff. And I was like, yeah, thank God we had this, or I got to tell you, we'd been in big trouble.
For sure. It's a gift. It's either an obstacle and an opportunity, right? It's how you take it. That's mindset.
How can extreme ownership help individuals bounce back from setbacks?
I think it goes back to the idea, just in general, of we're taught in school, and this is why I didn't do well in school, that it's pass or fail.
By the way, JR, I got to tell you, I didn't complete college, but I think you're the first one to not complete high school. But I love it. I love that you're on here and you're very successful.
You wouldn't have let me on if you knew that. That's why I didn't tell you.
No, I listen. I've had 2 Harvard grads, an MIT grad. So we've got now from different ends of the spectrum here in terms of guests on this show. But here's what I found. Of course, the Harvard people will deny this forever. To me, they all have the same qualities, and none of them were taught in school. All the successful people that have been on this show all have got similar behaviors, virtues, characteristics about themselves, habits, and none of these things were taught in school.
That's why I'm so happy I didn't do well in school.
You didn't let them mold you.
They didn't. I rejected all of that, but it's pass or fail, and that means that fail is a bad thing. I think fail is a good thing because I look at it as fuel. Failure is fuel to your next success. And if you can develop that mindset that, all right, boom, another way not to do it, learn that lesson, because you don't learn. I mean, most of us don't learn from our successes. We just ride them out and think we're great and all that. Our failure, when we evaluate our failure, look at it, think about it, and learn from it, it is fuel for our next success. In fact, I have a real simple tool that I want to share with the listeners now that we've brought this topic up, and I call it the course corrector tool. And all you need is a piece of paper and a pencil to use this thing. And you can evaluate any situation, like my sales went in the toilet last year. All right, what was working? That's the first question you ask yourself. What worked? Where did I get clients? What didn't work? Where did we lose clients, or they didn't spend as much as they should? What could we do differently? What works? What worked? What didn't work? What could we do differently? That's the course corrector tool. And you use that to turn your failures into your next success, because when you're evaluating what we can do differently, then you implement and you get better.
Yeah. No, it reminds me, I had to interview David Spizak, and he said he had a very similar process to that. At the end of this guy was breaking records. He was running a dealership out in California, Mercedes-Benz store. And I think by the time he was done, I want to say they more than doubled the next most profitable store in the country.
Wow.
But the amount of growth over a 5-year period and the percentage of growth every year, unless you're taking a broken store, that it just doesn't happen. And so, and by the way, when I tell you he doubled the next closest store, he did that with 97% client employee retention.
Wow.
So it's probably one of the reasons he enabled him to make the money, because he had great culture, and you don't have that without accountability. But this is after paying $6 million in bonuses to the leadership team. So he actually did a hell of a lot better on the net than what the final numbers would have been had they had not done that. But it's one reason he retained him. But he always asked at the end, similar 3 questions. He started with one other one. His first question is, is there more? How much more? All right. So how much more is there? All right. In terms of growth. All right. So he would start that meeting with that. And then he'd go into the questions you just talked about. And so I love that. And I asked him, I said, what happens if you got an answer back from someone that said, there isn't any more. We've exhausted this. There's no more room for growth. He goes, it never happened in our culture. He goes, because that mindset the culture just didn't allow it. It wasn't, the culture was such a growth mindset. And everyone, of course, they interviewed well, but none of us interview perfectly, right? We bring someone in, and let's go to the strength of what culture can really do. We've all hired the wrong people that if we had a weak culture would fail miserably, could become locker room lawyers, could become cancers within the organization, could be that guy at that year-end meeting that says, there is no more room for growth. But when you've got a culture of accountability, and it's whoever's more committed, the culture or this individual is going to win, right? And when that culture is so strong, eventually what happens is even that hire that wasn't ideal, that could have gone in a different direction, if you've got the strength in the right culture and it's strong enough, I think those people gravitate to it. And some of that potential stuff that could have had a negative impact, I think, can go away. And I think people underestimate that part of it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's the filter that we live by, is even before we're bringing someone in, we have that baseline, right? This is the culture here. Yes or no before you come in. If you say yes, you're being graded to this. And if you don't come up to the standard, it's going to spit you out. But yeah, there are some people, like you said, that get inspired and want to go for that, want to get bigger, want to grow, want to make that impact. And then some of them are just like, I just want to punch a clock. And that's fine.
Yeah. And just think about it. If you're surrounded by people who are always thinking about growth, who, when they fail, don't point the finger, they hold themselves accountable to it. They take extreme ownership. When you're surrounded by that and you don't see anything, like you said, people have trust that they can make mistakes, right? That they can have some failures. You want them taking chances. You want them being creative. You want them pushing boundaries. When people see that and see that it's real, all right, and you're sincere when you say it, you're not just saying it because you want to manufacture some bullshit culture. You it's really a living thing. I think people want to be a part of that. I think deep down, no one takes a job thinking, boy, I can't wait to just get by. I think initially everyone's intentions are probably pretty good. And I think when you have a weak culture, I think that can slide the wrong way. Or if the right culture elevates people up higher than what they may have expected.
Yeah. We're big fans of Donald Miller's story brand in our company, and we use that framework in a lot of what we do. And one of the things that he talks about is that aspirational identity, what they want to be, who they want to be. And that's what we talk about with our podcast hosts, is like, they get worried about niching down too far. And I'm like, niche down, like, who are we talking to? Let's get crystal clear. They're like, well, we're talking really to the C-suite, but we don't want the engineers to not listen. That was a conversation I had last week. And I'm like, well, the engineers that are aspiring to the C-suite will listen because they want to learn. So yeah, that's how you push, is like, let's lay out the vision as you have for your companies. I have for my company. Let's lay out the vision. And the people that want to get on board, when they get here and they get into it and they feel that camaraderie, they feel that growth, they feel the impact that they're making, the value, the excellence. Yeah, I'm in. Take me along for the ride. I want some of this. I think that there's nothing better than painting a beautiful picture and letting people come along for the ride. Bum, bum, bum. You're muted. There you go. No.
I don't know what happened there.
Yes.
Why it was like automatic mute.
It didn't want you to
So
talk.
that might have been the like, hey, we don't want you to. I was saying, I think there's a big bromance here going on because I too, like, we got Traction, we got EOS, we got Donald Miller now. Big fan of his. And by the way, you can plug in Chat GPT and say, write this in the voice of Donald Miller, and it will. Just as another hack, you people that like Donald Miller, you can do. But I like where you're going there. Let me ask you this question, because I want to be respectful of your time. How do individuals and organizations, how do we know, all right, I need to hold people more accountable. I want to do it in the right way. I want to build a better culture. How do we start measuring success? What are some of the things that you're paying attention to know you're on the right track for that?
That goes back to when you're planning. And that's why I think a tool like EOS is so useful, because I couldn't have done this before we implemented the entrepreneur's operating system. But our objectives and key results is one of the things that when we're looking at what we're doing with the company, and let's see if I can, in fact, let me just do this so I can share some of the ones that we're using right now that we measure by. So objective 1, streamline operations for scale. That's our operations guide. And then we have some sub points underneath that. That is what you're going to be graded on. Objective 2, increase customer value. We talked about this, where opportunity spotting, how do we keep clients longer? How do we keep them happier? How do we keep them referring? Objective number 3, this one falls under me. Get marketing machine going. So what are we using for marketing? What are is it emails? Is it videos? What are the pieces that we're using for marketing? And how does that lead to sales? And then objective number 4, formalize culture. That's why we're doing the videos, we're doing the meetings, we're doing the things that we need to do. And then for the copywriting, monthly calls for new product ideas and weekly audits to flag events and opportunities. They get graded to this. You have OKRs. These are the objectives and key results. And each week you have a scorecard, which you are accountable for. There's no ambiguity. Did you or didn't you? Very simple, very straightforward. And it's not going to be perfect when you first do it. Like I said, this is an iteration. This is like 3rd, 4th, 5th iteration. The first one didn't look like this, but each time when we find something that's working, all right, let's keep that. Now let's tweak these other things that aren't working. And this is where we are today. It's an evolution.
I love the mindset. You brought it up a couple of different times as well. You've got to be willing to be flexible on your approach. It's not going to be you're never going to plan anything perfectly out of the gate. So to be able to pay attention to what's working, improve on that, eliminate what's not critical to this process. And don't get you got to be, when I say flexible, it's not just about making quick adjustments. I think it's easy to sit there and say, all right, keep doing what's working and not, but sometimes we can get so rigid in the process of what we have to do. So the non-negotiables, we're going to do our level 10 every week at this time on this day, and we're going to be consistent with that, right? But how you might go about adjusting certain things, or let's just take the scorecard, for instance. We struggled early on and finally got good at knowing what we really needed to measure. Because in the beginning, we wanted, let's measure this, let's measure that. And heck, we spent all week just measuring things. I mean, we couldn't get anything done. And so, and then that creates its own issues. And so it's like, how did you have those learning curve?
And that, like, this scorecard is a new version from 6 months ago. Like I said, we had that rough year. And then we were coming out of that and we were like, well, this isn't working. I'm scoring on things that didn't matter. Instead of scoring on emails written, score on offers made. It's just a simple, hey, we're measuring the wrong thing. Yeah.
Keep it simple. All right. So what have we not talked about when it comes to extreme ownership or accountability that you feel would help the audience, right? That we maybe haven't discussed and we need to.
I don't think there's anything, because you've done a good job, and it helps that you understand all these things so that you could ask the questions. And it's more of the attitude of go back and listen to this. I think there are some gems in here. And one of them is the evolving. If you're thinking the same thing you were thinking last year, then you are not growing, which means you are dying. And so as you spoke to, being flexible, and I don't mean chasing squirrels. Oh, good idea, good idea, good idea. But looking objectively at what you're doing and asking yourself, is this getting me closer or further to what I want? And then the other piece I think that I want to bring back is give it away, give it away, give it away now, right?
Yeah.
Check your ego at the door. Give your team the reins, give them the safety that they need, lead with love, and allow them to make mistakes and grow if you want them to buy into the process and buy into the ownership.
I'm going to take something and steal it from you.
You can have it.
With that song,
I'm a giving guy.
When we do our masterminds at our leadership retreat, the group always does an incredible job. So first off, we've got a large collection of egos in the room.
Of course.
But I've never seen, it's incredible the way they just drop them. And because they're all about growth, they're all about learning. And they really, it doesn't, and when I talk about a lot of egos in the room, I'm going to throw myself in that. We all have big egos in there, but I got to tell you, everyone's all about helping each other. But I'm going to steal your song and I'm going to play it. I'm going to have it playing over the speaker system because I think it's a good mindset to go into and do it. Well, having said that, let's wrap up this show. It's another episode of Move, Crush, Count in the books, where we explored the importance of building an incredibly strong culture of extreme ownership. We got our expert, our podcasting expert, JR Rivera, helping us out here, shared incredible insights on taking responsibility, leading with accountability, creating a culture of ownership in your personal and your professional life. I love that we walked through some traction stuff. I'm no longer in the day-to-day stuff with that, but it was nice to bring all that stuff back. None of it went away from me. So this episode had to provide people with a lot of stuff. It's a topic I know that, as I mentioned in the opening, every leadership retreat we go to or coordinate, accountability comes up every single time, because without it, you go nowhere. And so I appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise and your insights with our audience. Thank you very much.
Brother, thank you for having me. It was a blast.
I want to make sure we get so for those, we're streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And so if you're watching the pod, you're seeing it scroll at the bottom. You can reach out to JR there at thepodcastfactory.com. Make sure you do that. Of course, we'll have it in the show notes if you're listening, or you could just hear me and go to thepodcastfactory.com. But he'll be happy to reach out to him there, and then you can connect with him on almost every social network or platform there is. And your name here
at Riverathan. Let me save you from that.
Yeah, thank you. At Riverathan. That's Riverathan. You can find him on all the social networks there. So reach out to him. Good guy. And as I said earlier, this is our second opportunity to discuss these type of topics, and both, I think, have went very well. So appreciate you, buddy. And you're welcome back on the show anytime.
Thanks, brother.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you visit movecrushcount.com. You can also go to our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to both so you can catch up on all our past episodes. You never miss any future ones. Stay connected with the community. Join our Facebook groups. Follow us on LinkedIn. Do all of the above. And of course, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and every network as well. So appreciate you guys out there. Thank you all for tuning in. And a big shout out to our sponsor, J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your competition so you don't have to outspend them. Check out jnlmarketing.com today, and that can help you move the crowd, crush your competition, and count the money. Until the next episode, we'll see y'all later.